In a world that seems to be absolutely saturated with sequels and superheroes, how on earth did a 3-hour, R-rated historical drama become one of the biggest cultural events of the year? Well, today, that's what we're digging into. We're explaining the phenomenon that is Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer. So, in an era where superhero movies are pretty much king, this one film just came along and defied every single expectation. It didn't just break the mold for a summer blockbuster, it absolutely shattered it. And let's be real here. On paper, this was not an easy sell. A 3-hour R-rated epic full of dense physics and, political backstabbing. That's usually the kind of movie that critics love, but audiences, maybe not so much. It's not exactly the recipe for a global phenomenon. But that's exactly what happened. So the big question we're asking is how? How did this incredibly serious, really challenging film about the father of the atomic bomb capture the whole world's attention and become one of the biggest movies of the year? Okay, so how did Oppenheimer pull this off? Well, it all kicked off with a cultural explosion, one that actually began with a very, very unlikely pairing. Right, the internet, and its infinite and sometimes strange wisdom gave us Barbenheimer. And what started out as a funny meme just became this massive cultural tidal wave. It was way more than just a joke. It was this genuine celebration of going to the movies. And it encouraged everyone to embrace two wildly different but equally brilliant films. And listen, this wasn't just some flash-in-the-pan internet trend. The film went on to make nearly $1 billion at the worldwide box office. I mean, that's just staggering. It proved without a doubt that audiences were absolutely starving for complex, adult-focused dramas on the biggest screen they could find. But look, a meme alone doesn't get you to $1 billion. At the very heart of Oppenheimer's success is just a masterfully crafted story. Nolan didn't give us a simple, straightforward biography. No, he shattered the timeline to really get inside the man behind the bomb. This is where Nolan's genius really kicks in and how he structures this thing. You've got the color sequences, which he called fission, and they just pull us right into Oppenheimer's own personal, subjective experience. Then you have this stark contrast with the black and white fusion scenes. They give us the subjective, almost cold look at the political maneuvering, all seen through the eyes of his rival, Louis Strauss. So what this fractured timeline does is create this relentless, almost unbearable tension. We're constantly jumping between Oppenheimer's incredible rise, the crushing weight of the Manhattan Project, and then the tragic political takedown that followed, all while we're watching the slow burn of Strauss's own downfall. It's just brilliant. Now, this incredibly complex narrative is brought to life by Nolan's signature directing style, which somehow turns this massive historical epic into something that feels deeply personal and, at the same time, monumental. Nolan's commitment to making you feel like you're there is just legendary. I mean, get this. He had Kodak literally invent black and white IMAX film just for this movie. The score, with that haunting violin, feels like Oppenheimer's own frayed nerves. And that breathtaking Trinity Test? No CGI, none. Nolan used real explosives, so the actors felt that searing heat and blinding light, just like the actual scientists did. And this obsession with authenticity, it went all the way to his star. Cillian Murphy, who's been in a bunch of Nolan's films, went through this grueling transformation, physically shaping himself into Oppenheimer's gaunt, almost ghost-like figure. It's a truly haunting performance that just anchors the entire film. So, the result of this incredible, singular vision, it wasn't just a box office titan. It was a critical masterpiece, one that people were hailing as one of the best films of the century. I mean, just look at the numbers for a second. On Rotten Tomatoes, a staggering 93% of over 500 critics gave it a certified fresh rating. That's not just a positive review, that's a consensus. That's basically everyone agreeing this film is something special. And it's not just about percentages. Metacritic, which kind of weights the most respected reviews out there, gave it a score of 90. That signifies universal acclaim. So critics weren't just impressed. They were completely awestruck by the film's ambition, its flawless craft, and, of course, its powerhouse performances. And all that critical adoration, it peaked at the Academy Awards, where Oppenheimer had a truly dominant night. It took home 7 Oscars, including all the big ones. A long overdue Best Director for Nolan, Best Actor for Murphy's incredible performance, and the ultimate prize, Best Picture. Reviewers didn't just call it a good movie. They were calling it a historic one. This review from Peter Travers really captures the feeling that Oppenheimer was a true monumental achievement. a film that people are going to be remembering and studying for decades. So let's go beyond the awards and the box office. What is the lasting legacy of Oppenheimer? Why does this story from our past feel so terrifyingly relevant right now? Well, right from its opening moments, the film tells you what it's about. It frames its subject as a modern-day Prometheus, drawing this direct line to the Greek myth about the Titan who stole a divine power for humanity, a power humanity wasn't ready for. Just like Prometheus, Oppenheimer gave humanity a power it was not ready for. But his punishment wasn't being chained to a rock. It was an eternal one. He was forever burdened by the knowledge that he had created the potential for our own total annihilation. Remember, the scientists' big fear during the Manhattan Project was that they might accidentally start a chain reaction that would ignite the atmosphere and destroy the world. The film's devastating conclusion is that they did start a chain reaction, a political one, the unstoppable nuclear arms race that defined the 20th century and, frankly, continues to threaten us to this day. And that brings us to the film's absolutely devastating final lines. Oppenheimer, completely haunted by his creation, confirms Einstein's worst fears. I believe we did. They started that chain reaction. And the film leaves us with this terrifying question, one that echoes louder today than ever before. Can we control the fire we've stolen from the gods? Or are we just destined to be consumed by it?